I've done a lot of these design sprints, and I wanted to tell you the story of one that I think is particularly interesting. There's some cool stories. Lego has done design sprints at sort of a large scale across their company, and the New York Times used them in a hackathon. There's some cool kind of case studies, but the one I want to tell you is this small, weird company called Savioke. It's my favorite sprint story. So it's this company who we invested in when I was working at Google Ventures. They make a hotel delivery robot, and they had this idea. They had built a proof of concept. They had one kind of working version of this thing. The idea with the robot is actually it's almost exact size of this guy right here, and the robot, if you were working at the front desk and somebody called in room 316 and said, hey, I need a towel, you could open the hatch on the top of the robot, you could put a towel in, close the hatch, type in room 316, and the robot, like a little self-driving car, would navigate through the lobby, dodging people and obstacles, and make its way to the elevator where it would wait, wirelessly calling the elevator. It would get on and ride with people, kind of get to the third floor, get off, and then it's got a map of the hotel, so it knows how to get to room 316. And when it gets there, it triggers another phone call, and inside the room, the phone rings, and the person picks it up, and a robotic voice says, your delivery is here. And then when the door opens, the robot senses that it's opened, and the hatch pops up, and the delivery is made. And there's a lot of technology to making that work, but the team had done it. They had made all of those things I described work. But they still had this really big question they were wrestling with, which is, how should the robot behave? And the challenge, these are folks who had worked in robotics for a long time. So the challenge they knew was that we tend to sort of overestimate what robots can do. We tend to think we're spoiled, We've all seen science fiction, and we think robots have thoughts and plans and hopes and dreams. They fall in love, But they don't. They don't. And this robot is effectively a trash can on wheels. So if people had a conversation with it, if they asked it a question or told it to do something, they were sure to be disappointed. And if you're a startup making a robot, you're like, if people aren't really happy with this thing, look, people are going to be writing stories about this in the newspaper because it's so weird. Hotel guests, they're going to be writing reviews talking about it because it's so weird. So if we don't do a great job, if we disappoint or frustrate people, our company could go out of business. So the safe thing to do, the smart thing to do, is to give the robot no personality at all, right? That makes sense. But if you're making a robot, you gotta think, it'd be kind of cool if we had some fun with this, and that's what they were thinking. They had a bunch of ideas for things they could do with the robot, so they decided to do a design sprint to test it out. So on Monday, they make a map, right? Okay, so they're making the map, and they bring together a team. They've got a lot of different skill sets in the room, different expertise. The CEO is there, and they make this map. So the map is all the places where the robot might encounter a guest who is not expecting to find a robot in the hotel. And the CEO says, look, the moment of delivery, if you get all the way to your room and you don't know there's a robot, that could be really awkward, but it could also be really great. We should do an awesome job there. So they decide on that moment. Okay, Tuesday they sketch. Here's an actual video of the sketching of the robot. It's super boring looking. You can't tell they're sketching a robot. It's just a boring looking activity, but they sketch. Everybody came up with an idea. Some people brought in old ideas, things they had been thinking about before, but those ideas had been pushed aside or it wasn't the right time. And some people came up with a new idea. They've got all these competing ideas. On Wednesday, the CEO's got to decide. They do the whole process to evaluate them, and at the end, the CEO decides. And he chooses these 3 risky ideas to test. The first idea is, what if the robot could play games? Or what if it could play hide and seek, in the hotel room? Or follow the leader, right? That could be really fun. Well, fun. People like the robot. They might like to kind of play with it. It seems cool. So that's one idea. Second idea kind of seems obvious, but to give the robot a face. It seems obvious, but the thing is, it's kind of dangerous. They did not want people to talk to the robot, because as soon as you start talking to the robot, you're going to be disappointed. And they figured, though, somebody came up with this idea where there was like a speech bubble, with text in it, and the face itself didn't look very intelligent. And so they thought maybe that would work. So they said, okay, let's try that out. And then the third idea was that the robot would do a dance after it made the delivery. And I want to go on the record, this is a dumb idea, because the robot, you saw the robot, it doesn't have any arms or legs or neck or hips. all it can do is pivot. And this is how I dance, but I know it's not charming. I do this and nobody wants to talk to me. So I knew this was a bad idea, but the CEO thought it was, okay, so he's this boss, right?